Obviously, that's a very difficult position, and the game is called more towards the offense than the defense. But when you look at the box score, Mike Evans had the game that he had. How do you kind of assess that, knowing the challenge that's presented, but the production looks like, at least from the box score perspective, going in the favor of the offense there?
Yeah, I would say for us, it's about winning. And like I said, there was other plays that wouldn't show up to make a tackle to hold them to a field goal at the end. Those are important moments for us as well. So and give Tampa and Mike their credit too. Like they've been excellent this entire season. So I don't want to shortchange that as well.
Sam?
What's it do for the offense and the sideline when you guys are able to connect downfield passes, especially early in the game?
The explosive plays are a big deal. Run game, passing game. If we can do that, and I thought we did a good job yesterday of not setting ourselves back onto some second downs, whether it was sacks or penalties, ones that can make it difficult to go. So when you have these explosive, it's a big part of what we do, and I love the connection that we have. There were some really, rock solid, strong. Without Diami had some good ones. Terry had some, but just running through the catch, ripping the ball. This is a tough team to protect against based on the rush and the blitz package. So I know the guys had worked hard leading into the week of that.
Most emotional you've seen Jaden this year?
What was?
Yeah. Is there a specific time that stands out?
Probably when Marcus threw the game-winning touchdown pass at Dallas. Like he was the most emotional in these other moments where he's the one in charge. Like he's iced up, man. Like, like he ain't letting you into that. Like inside the lens of that helmet, like he's a killer. So the most emotional I've seen him is his joy for Marcus into that spot to let that emotion and happiness out for a guy that means a lot to him.
Thank you.
David Aldridge?
Hey, Dan. Obviously the running game was not as productive as you would like, but
Correct.
how much of that was offset a little bit by the fact that you went to Austin and B-Rob a lot out of the backfield and you kind of got short passes that had the same effect really as runs?
Yeah, that's the key, Dave. We thought if we could get over 50 in completions and runs, that would be the thing. We were going to work hard at time of possession where they couldn't play keep away from us. And so some of that had some fourth downs to go for it as well. Could we be, bold enough in those spots to extend the drives to go? But you're right. In this game, it was going to be about space and could we get the ball out in space to, try to make some plays that way because of the zones and the zone pressure. So when it's more man to man, you don't do that as often just because they're matched more quickly. So we thought that would have been one of the ways we try to go attack. They played some man to man as well, but it's a tough defense to go against. But we thought that would be our best way to get completions and to make sure we're getting the ball in play. That was kind of the phrase that we were, not the sacks or the negative plays, get the ball to the guys and get it in play.
You guys have trusted Coleman for a while now at left tackle. I just wonder how you think he held up in his first playoff game.
It was good to see also, this was a game that was going to be about toughness. And he and some of the other guys, David, I thought really stood in that gap. Shoulder got banged up to go again. Deron Payne had a bad finger injury, back in, stitched in to go. Zach and some others. I just thought it was a pure example of like a Warriors effort. It really was, David, to make sure they were going to stay in the fight all the way through. And there's also a piece of that connection that I was talking about earlier that goes with that they did not want to be out of the fight, knowing how important this was to everybody. And I think Brandon has a great example right next to him in Allegretti. Like he's the veteran presence that's talking to him. Come on, you'll be all right. Just kind of pulling him through. And that's what good teammates do. And it's nice to have a mentor like that, just a foot away from you on every snap.
Hey, Pete?
Hey, Dan, just kind of specific to what you said earlier about not worrying about the box score necessarily, worrying about the win. Do you view that run game kind of through the same prism that YPC isn't the driver necessarily, and it's the entirety of it?
I do. I look at a lot. Turnover margins, my number one that I look at, like number one, top of the pile. I also look at the tackling and broke tackle margins because a lot of explosives, JP, come off of those, whether we're creating them offensively or even on the return game. I think JC may have had, 3, tackles broken on a 17-yard return. So those all factor in to go. I'm not oblivious to the stats. Obviously, I want it to be, strong and solid in every space. I thought that we played better, especially in the first half in the run game, JP, in our game. Baker had a long scramble on one. Irving is a significant problem. The way he can change direction, he can get outside. So I thought we took a step forward, certainly in the first half defensively in the run game. But no, I don't minimize it, but I do place certain things above others. And explosive plays, turnover margin, tackling and breaking tackles, to me, those are at the top of my pile.
And then with that, obviously that game was getting really close down the stretch, and you and Joe, you guys all talk turnovers all the time. Ball is life. Was there any sort of added emphasis as the game continued? Did you say anything on the sideline? It almost seemed like predestined for Bobby to get that fumble somehow.
Yeah, we definitely put it into the atmosphere, and we do that all the time, though. They did a good job of taking care of it too. We thought we'd have some chances to put it on the ground, and see if we could get a few. We thought maybe we'd have a chance at an interception earlier. Mike thought he might have had a shot at one in the first quarter. But you've got to take advantage of those when they come. And I thought we did a really good job offensively also of taking care of the ball. But it is the one thing we talk about almost on a regular basis, JP, that controls the future, that turnover margin. And we really work hard at that.
Thanks.
Hi, Dan. This was the 5th straight game that your team won on the final play of the game. That's almost unheard of. Have you ever experienced something like that? And what is that like from your perspective on the sidelines to see your players rise to the occasion time and time again?
It's you can feel their instant connection, Scott. That's honestly what I feel in these moments where at the end they do have belief in one another, and that's one of the coolest parts of it. Whether it was a defensive stop, an offensive stop, defensive stop, an offensive score, or field goal that takes place. All of those are really cool memories. We don't look back a lot, honestly, just because we don't want to miss what's next and what's coming up. But it is really cool to know that in these spots, they're comfortable, and they've been in a lot of them. So there's a real belief that goes with being in that spot.
And with your decision making and learning to trust yourself to make the decision to go for it on 4th down, can you kind of describe the evolution of that, of when you started to begin to kind of trust your instincts, trust your gut, and trust your players to, hey, you know what? Let's go for it.
Yeah, way more player related. And so one of the reasons we're exceptional on 4th down is the poise that we were just speaking of, starting with 5 and going through the offense, through Cliff and all of the guys. But we're not going to be reckless, Scott, but when there's a chance and a moment for us to capture it and to be bold, we're not going to look back. We want, to carry no into the, I wish we had tried this, into the next week. I wish we had gone for it. We're going to be bold when we have our moments to do so. Not to say we'll be reckless, but we really have a lot of faith in what we do, and we've practiced it a lot. So it does give us a lot of faith and confidence when those moments come up.
Thanks, Dan.
You're welcome.
Andy?
Hey, Coach, so to pull on that thread a little bit about being bold versus reckless, how do you kind of evaluate in the moment or even in preparation of what's considered bold and what's considered reckless for you all?
Yes, we do that well before we even start, honestly, Candy, as we're going through it. And so as the series starts, each particular drive, not just the series, every 1st down, is this a chance where we would go on a certain 4th? So you may hear, if you were on the sideline, you might hear me say, hey, we're going to go at 2, we're going to kick it at 3. Or, we're going to, we're a field goal at 1, we go it short, or this is all the way a punt. So I try to communicate what we would do well before it ever comes up. It does change though, Candy, depending on time, score of the game, field position, all of those. So it's not one size fits all, but we do discuss it all the way through. We practice even as we go through the week's practice. This is a third down to fourth down sequence, and we kind of work at it in that way.
And when you took a look back at the film, what did you see from your defensive line last night?
You know what we saw that we liked? I really felt they were really playing physical in the run game. And knowing that was going to be the case, it was one of the things that going into the game, that this is, a significant run, play, pass team that's able to, sustain really long drives with that. So to see these guys tackle well, Candy, I thought that was a really big step. We thought our inside guys would have to play well in this game. I think we even may have talked about that on both sides of the line. I thought the interior part of our guys, we really, leaned in on them, and they really delivered on that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Donna?
Hi, Coach. Coach, since this team seems to like to be in these heavyweight boxing matches all the time, if you were to pick a great boxer of all time that resembles this team, who would it be and why?
That is a good one. Because we certainly go the distance a lot. So it's not a knockout artist, that's for sure. But I would say this team has one of my favorite fighters, coming up through the 80s was Marvelous Marvin Hagler, and had to go through some trials, lost in his first, ops at big ones to go, and stood toe to toe with everybody and tucked his chin and kept on swinging. So I would say, because we've been through some of the ups and downs, he would be one that was absolutely that kind of toughness. So it's a great question, and that's the first name that popped into my head, other than Ken Norton, because I thought got to show some love to his father. So those would be the two that came to mind.
You definitely had to call out that name for sure.
Yeah, 100%.
And this team really stood up in some of the most critical moments and everything. But when you look at anything within this game, did something stand out even more in this game that you liked about it?
I loved in the second quarter, we had a really long drive on offense, and it was maybe 16 or 17 plays, came back, had to have them go punt to go. And so that was what I'd hope we would see in this game, where there could be spots to not allow Tampa to control the clock. They've been excellent at that. And so when you have those kind of drives, we did extend them. That was a big deal for us. Then the other one, I would say, 4:40 left in the game. And so not to give the ball back, 4 minutes is something, possession. So to see the guys deliver, I thought, what a big play by Austin. I think there was actually right at the 2-minute mark on the pass that kind of put us into field goal range. And then the 3rd and 2 that Jaden converted with his legs, to be able to use up more clock, that was a big deal. And so I think those would be the two that come to mind, Donna. We knew we had to have some extended drives, so we couldn't allow them to have all the time of possession. And then the finishing mindset, with 4.5 minutes to go, to not give it back to them with that defense, that's a really big deal.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Wino?
Dan, what do you make of the challenge that the Lions possess, and how much does the short week kind of affect your preparation for facing a team like that?
Well, we'll start from the backwards part of it. As far as the preparation goes, Steve, we're okay on that. We have a real process we go through. So tomorrow for the players would be like a Wednesday for us. So it's a short game, Monday games, Sunday games. We're all pretty equipped of how to adjust the schedule for that. So that part, it's a process that we'd like to go through. So we won't back off of that, not one bit. As far as the challenges that go, quite a bit. Just in terms of the way they play, the style, the attitude, they're high flying, and scoring offense, but they're also in the run game, one of the very best at that. So they've generated a lot of explosive plays this year. And that alone, we had just talked about that, of being able to work the ball down the field. That's difficult. And so a lot of challenges, whether it's speed and ability at wide receiver, or the running back tandem, the quarterback who can rip it, an excellent O-line. Defense plays a lot of man-to-man that plays aggressive. So we'll definitely have our work cut out for us. We're just, beginning the whole process of it now, Stephen, so we don't have it all the way through. But as far as the process goes to get ready, we're comfortable, early, late, however we got to get down.
Thank you.
Thanks, Coach. Appreciate it.
All right, you guys have a good one. See you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.